Welcome in to the Energy Tech Podcast presented by Upside Energy. Today, we're joined by Oliver Wang from Moxa, live at ICC 2025. Guys, welcome in.
Hey, Jeff, it is good to be here. I am your co-host, Mike Flores, with the Energy Tech Podcast, right here in the heart of Sacramento for ICC 2025. And with us right now is Mr. Oliver Wang from Moxa. Oliver, good to have you on the show, man.
Thank you very much for having me, Mike.
Yes.
It's a pleasure.
We're excited, man. We've been trying to track you down, the Moxa team. And I think the reason is because Moxa is such a great partner with Ignition. And so we're going to talk about a few things, Oliver. But before we do any of that, I want to share with the community. I want you to share with the community who you are and what you do for Moxa.
All right. So I am a product marketing manager on a team of product marketing managers for Moxa products. Okay. My specific focus is on the industrial compute line of Moxa, which ironically isn't very well known.
Right.
In the Ignition community and in the past ICCs that I've been with, that's what we have been pushing really hard because it's very relevant to digital transformation,
right.
IIoT. But the truth is, we have a really broad selection of very relevant communication and networking products that carry data from PLCs through a network, through secure routers, all the way to your SCADA server where you're running Ignition. And so we have other product marketing managers that cover those lines. I cover the IPC.
Got you.
Yeah.
You mentioned something a minute ago, and you said, "Hey, I've been to ICC before."
Yeah.
What do you think makes it different this year versus any other year for you?
Oh wow!
And let me explain.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So right now, the theme is level up here at ICC.
Right.
Okay. When I think of level up, there's a few things. Number one is the new venue right here in Sacramento. Right. I think you may have been to the old center there and Folsom. Right. So they've got that facility. It certainly has outgrown it. You got a big community. That's leveling up, number one. I think number two is the release of 8.3. Their version of 8.3 just came out, right? They pushed that out. They talked about it. Lots of modules, lots of great additions, lots of great tools. The third thing that I think has happened is they've added this Prove It conference to it. The Prove It element. That, of course, originated out of the Walker Reynolds and the team at 4.0 Solutions.
Right.
They've got this, this Prove It flavor of sessions that they've got going on. I think the fourth way they've leveled up is by inviting the Energy Tech Podcast. We're here, and this is a good way for the community to share, not just folks like Moxa, but end users. You've got integrators, so you've got a whole host of community that can really talk to their experience with Ignition. So for me, I think the difference has been they've leveled up in that way. But from previous years that you've been here, do you feel kind of a different energy this year?
I don't know where to begin, Mike. There's so much I could say just on the theme of level up and how relevant it is for the conference, for Moxa in particular, for Moxa and the inductive relationship. And from the Moxa involvement in the show. So just one example, just the venue and the number of conversations we're able to have, and the quality of conversations it just continued to go up. And this particular year, just these past 2 days, I haven't had a moment's rest. Because nonstop conversations, and every conversation has been incredibly productive with a user or an integrator that has a very interesting problem and is very curious and is open to talking about creative ways and tools that may be available from Moxa or from someone else at the conference and how to solve their problems.
And so when you hear about some of these problems, a lot of times, Oliver, I like to work our way back from the problem. Right. So kind of share some of what you've been hearing. I mean, you obviously, they're coming to your booth. Moxa's got some sexy stuff. I do have to admit, when I think of Moxa, I think of a lot of edge products. So these are products that are embedded with Ignition Edge. Yeah. You can get those out of the box. in terms of licensing. So they're edge capable, and you're going to find the staple of products not just in control cabinets, but in the field, deployed, fit for purpose, whether you're in the industrial space, oil and gas, water waste. I mean, you name it. And I think Moxa has its place. But where are you hearing some of the conversations in the last few days, in terms of, wow, hey, we really trying to solve a problem. I'm in manufacturing. I'm in automotive. I'm in, oil and gas, Were you hearing that a little bit?
Let me think about that, because a lot of our conversations and a lot of the conversations I have are just raising awareness of tools that already exist, but maybe in a more cost-effective version. Right. So there's a lot of what Moxa does is help our customers or integrators connect to legacy equipment.
Right.
And one of our biggest sellers is our Modbus RTU to a TCP converter. It's an MGate. And so we have a lot of customers who recognize that they see it in the cabinet at the data centers that they're working with.
Right.
And a lot of customers that are familiar with that in oil and gas as well. It's not the sexiest product, but the continued growth of data centers and the need to connect to switchgear over Modbus and connect to your Ignition server has led to that product being very interesting and relevant to people. And then when they see some of the other, tools or products that are available to make it more cost effective, I mean, you can get instrumentation from a PLC, you can get instrumentation from a remote I/O device, but sometimes you don't really realize until you see it, and then you see how it can make your architecture simpler, more cost effective, especially if you have supply chain issues that you're dealing with from your PLC provider or your typical I/O provider. And so just having awareness of, the breadth of the Moxa offering, as it relates, and not necessarily better. I'm going to be biased. Of course, I think it's better. But just being interoperable and playing nice with what you're already using, and that you have that option through a vendor that has that experience with the inductive control.
No, I think you're right. And so, Oliver, what I'm hearing from you is that the staple is an MGate, we'll say, but where people have data that's stranded, it's locked up. It's, a lot of it is the old Modbus RTU. They want to convert that. And a lot of them are moving to MQTT. So you have lots of conversion that's happening there where they want sub-millisecond or batch data, and they want to move that via MQTT, right? And so they're unlocking it by leveraging just a simple protocol converter, which is common. But I think what you're saying is, hey, Mike, there's actually a bigger offering from us in terms of that with edge capability, Spark-Plug-B, MQTT. And I think that's what you're saying. And, you talked about a demo that you guys did maybe a week ago or recently. Tell me about that, what that's like.
Oh, yeah. So there's so much to talk about. Just the edge connectivity piece, Modbus, MQTT. And you were asking about, what problems are people trying to solve, getting data in a non-vendor locked way to Ignition. And the demo that we have here at the show at our booth, it's a demo that we collaborated on with the inductive application.
Okay.
Fantastic. So they're showing the software side of an asset owner, a microgrid owner, integrating devices from a battery energy storage system, from the grid, the switch gear that's carrying data or not carrying data, carrying the power from the grid, from the solar panels, to EV chargers, and also having to manage the load on the on-site factory. And so you have the nice dashboard from the built by Inductive, and then you have the physical devices that are on the site, and then how do you get that data? How do you transport that data from the devices to your Ignition server so that you're able to manage the load dynamically as you have cars that park into the EV charger and you have to make it capable of doing fast charging or slow charging, or you may have to deactivate it so you don't overload the grid.
Right.
Or you want to use power in an effective way based on the time of use and the time, when power is more expensive or cheaper to, say, charge your energy storage systems. That demo basically shows a nice physical sort of model of what that looks like, and it's live. You can see you have these little toy cars, and then it clicks into place with magnets, and you can see the EV charger light up, and you can see the load on the ignition screen, and you can see how that affects what gets drawn from the energy storage system, what gets drawn from the grid, and how that can be dynamically adjusted.
I think
Really
what we're
cool.
going to, so just hearing that, Oliver,
Yeah.
I think it would be good for us to try to maybe head over to your booth today. If it's not today, maybe we'll work something out.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because we really want to show that. I think it would be great
Yeah.
for folks to see
Yeah.
Moxa live on that demo. But what I'm hearing from this is connectivity first, right?
Yes.
Making sure that we can extract the data that we need. And it sounds like we're going to do this in an event-based environment. That means as events happen, this is where we want to collect, whether it's connectivity, whether it's changes in market forces, because you have market force changes. What those are is, hey, we have a demand on a grid.
Right.
Then on the other side, it's we may need a store because there are periods where we want to sell that, right? So that's a market force now because, hey, it's also, there's peak times. So I have a peak time where I know I want to sell this, where I'm going to make a revenue, but there are times where I'm off peak, but I want to store that energy and then I want to use it then, or I want to give it away, right? So that's a market force.
I mean, what I've heard, it's not a market that I know personally very well. We have a dedicated team just focused on the energy market, and they'll bring, the industrial piece guy into engagements, but the conversations they're having, it's mind-blowing how much money there is just in energy management based on the billing cycle or the time of day and where the rates change. And a lot of money, like we're talking to companies that are able to more accurately gauge your battery level, or your energy level, because if you don't have an accurate read of the amount of energy in your battery, then you may not need to charge it. You may not need to pull from the grid. You can be more efficient and save more time. And there's math that I don't know how to do.
Yeah, and offer up storage. And it sounds like Moxa's right in the middle of providing tools that benefit that part of the business. And that's what it seems like and what I'm hearing. And I think it's going to be really good if we can articulate that in a demo for tomorrow. Let's see what we can do. I think that would be good. If not, the Energy Tech podcast, we have our Cannonsburg location, and we can also work with your group to set something up. We can do a demo, a mobile demo. I think that would be outstanding. And, so I think Moxa's in the middle of doing that. And tell me a little bit, we've got our interesting piece of equipment here. And, this is part of the, I would say, the array of setup that you've got. So kind of tell me what we're looking at here in terms of your Moxa equipment, just high-level run of what we've got.
Right, and thank you for that, because I can get really distracted by all the other stuff that Moxa is able to bring to bear to a given problem or an integrator. But I should talk about the actual product that I represent. And so what you have here is one of the latest entries into Moxa's industrial compute.
Right.
And we do have a kind of broad array of compute products. So, at the more classic IPC end, you're talking about x86, quad-core Atom to Core i7 or even Core i9.
Wow.
But what you're looking at there is on our lower-end ARM-based product, low power consumption, very, very efficient operation, but still very powerful with the quad-core Atom, 4 gigs of RAM, 16 gigs of storage, running Debian 11, and built-in LTE, built-in Wi-Fi, CAN bus ports, and I said Debian 11, with tools provided by Moxa to make all all of the hardware easy to access. We've created command line tools in Linux to make it very easy to set up the wireless network.
Absolutely.
To set up the APN, to set up the failover, to do failover from one SIM to another SIM because it supports dual SIM.
Yeah.
And that particular model has a global LTE modem, which
Right.
means you can take that, put a global SIM on it, and it can gather data anywhere in the world.
Right, and it sounds like you're going to pick up the best available provider in the area if it's global.
You can.
Yeah.
So you have it. So it is. It's a computer. So
Right.
you can script whatever you want on it, and you can use the Moxa tools that really make those pieces easier to use. And so a common use case for something like this would be if you needed to connect to a variety of devices in a remote cabinet with only wireless connectivity. You could, for example, run Ignition Edge
Yeah.
on there. And then
No, I
you
saw
have
that.
the ability to connect to the 300 plus devices that Ignition Edge supports natively and carry that using the MQTT or Azure or AWS connectors that are built into Ignition Edge, on a sub $1,000 device. So you don't have to do a modem and compute. You don't have to do a modem plus, an IPC. It's all in one integrated box for a very affordable price.
Right, and so that's all built in. And you mentioned
Yeah.
there's something earlier on some CAN bus protocol.
Yeah.
So really what you're doing is tying into some legacy stuff, at least in energy, oil and gas,
Yeah.
and some of the energy spaces as well. That typical protocol you're going to see upstream in drilling, other places.
Right.
So it's built for that as well, right? So
Yes.
we've got a rugged setup. What I really do like is you've got a couple of dual LAN ports. You've got some capabilities for GPS if I want to add it.
Yes.
And I can almost bet that Starlink's an additional you can add somewhere if that's what you're talking.
Right.
So there's lots of capability built into the device. When we talk about Moxa, when someone gets this and we're talking about unboxing, what does it look like in terms of support?
So we have a U.S.-based support office, so in Orange County, Bay of
Gotcha.
California, and you don't have to sign any special support contract. You can submit a ticket right on the web, and we try to get to you on the same day.
Yeah.
Someone on the phone. We don't have an AI agent that's going to ask you questions. There's a typical template that we're going to ask, like what
Right.
product. Do you have the serial number, things like that. But we also have our phone number on our website. And a lot of the folks at the Ignition conference already have my contact information, so we're just a phone call or an email away to get support. And my FAE is right there watching me, and he is a person that I call on frequently to do demos
Yes.
remotely. And again, you don't need a support contract. You don't need to sign anything. There's no charge for that. In fact, we have a pool of loaner devices that I keep on my desk that if someone wants to try it out, doesn't have the funds to buy a unit, if I have a unit available, I'm usually happy to loan it or wait for someone who has already loaned it to be done with it and make sure that someone's able to test their application and make sure.
But I'm
Works.
almost certain that you've got a price point that allows you to leverage this in a proof of concept if a customer wants to do that.
Oh, absolutely.
So that's what I'm hearing is
Yeah.
you're going to get that support. If we, in the unboxing, what I mean by that is we can start a proof of concept with the device, unbox it, get this thing hooked up, which I believe is probably in a matter of minutes. This shouldn't be that difficult in terms of configuration.
Right.
And so that I think is a big deal. The support you've already talked about from Moxa, which I know firsthand, they are available. You've had lots of conversations. What do you believe is kind of the challenge? What do you think? What's the tipping point for a customer in your mind, right? Because they may demo it, and I usually divide the tipping point in 3 areas:
Okay.
cost, complexity, and cybersecurity. That's it. Okay. So when I think about the product, I put them in those categories because it never fails. If you're in operations, you care about cost, or if you're in leadership, you care about cost. If you're in operations, I'm the plant person, I'm the person at the data center, I care about complexity because this ability to install, set up, DNRL, mount it, all those good things, it usually falls in the hands of an automation superintendent, automation tech, the SCADA guy. And so in that case, they want less complexity to set this thing up. The final thing is cybersecurity. The reason I say that is because you've got some of the things already built in for Moxa that's capable. And what I like about it is that that same person that I talked about, whether it's automation tech, you know, if it's the SCADA person or the operations I&E tech that does the installation, cybersecurity, they're not IT people. So that means to me that IT isn't top of mind all the time. Why? Because they just want to keep something running and talking. So I think with Moxa's built-in capabilities, you still have some cybersecurity, and naturally with MQTT, you still have you know, that a TLS encryption. So you still have that capability, which is what I love about some of the Moxa products. So anytime I think about deployment, I think about cost. I think about complexity, and I think about cybersecurity, you know?
Mike, I mean, I could talk probably an hour straight, nonstop, on any one of those specific topics. That out-of-box experience. I mean, going back to the out-of-box support on these units and the complexity, you're dead on. I think the complexity of working with just wireless, even you know your off-the-shelf wireless router that you get on Amazon, people still struggle with the channels. At least I do. Man, I don't know about other people. Well, I'm pretty sure everyone kind of struggles in their own way of how to set it. You know, you got to change your password. How do you set up a guest Wi-Fi network? You know, and if it's a Linux box, if you don't know Linux, if you don't know
off the CLI,
if you don't know, like, well, what does that mean, RSSI? What does that mean, APN? Why, what does it mean that I need, a VPN tunnel or something like that? How do I set that up? Or how does that field tech set it up or change it? You're dead on. So I think the two things that I can say Moxa does really well to address some of that. One is that support. We want you to have a good experience with our box. So if someone buys a box, we want to proactively reach out to you and say, hey, do you want us to walk through some of the basic setups? I mean, we want to do that. We don't want to just let you try to puzzle it out and you have a bad experience. There are some tools that, if you're not familiar with them on the website, you might not realize that that is a configuration tool with the GUI that makes it easy for you to actually set all of the network settings, and set all the configuration on not just one device, but all of the devices that are connected to the same LAN. Right. And so it takes some education because our website documentation isn't as detailed or complete to walk through every step of the way. It's something that we're trying to do. So the support from us, that's the piece that we do really well. And those utilities, the configuration utility, the fleet management utility, that's also available and makes it easy to update the firmware or apply security patches. So there's a lot there, but the main thing that I would say is the box itself has the technology. And then the Moxa support team, myself, our FAE, the technical service team, they're very well trained. Even our dev team based out of Taiwan, if there's any sort of issue or if there's any sort of tweak that could make it a little bit easier to use, they are very, very good and very responsive in coming out with patches or utilities that might make that or improve the experience for our users.
Wow. Oliver, we're coming to some time end here, but I want to keep you here a long time, just to kind of keep going, man. Because there's a lot to talk about. Moxa's well known in the industry, and it seems like even being well known, you're not settling for that. I think that's one of the things I recognize about Moxa is you're not settling for just we put out a decent product. We're kind of living off of the trophies of the early part of Industry 3.0, you're looking at forward in the future. What do you think that future is for Moxa? What does that look like, man, right now? That's I know it's kind of tough to answer, but let me put it in another context. what is the case and how's Moxa working well with AI and machine learning? I know those are topics you guys are thinking about.
We are.
I'm not asking for secret sauce here.
Yeah.
But I am asking, hey, what's at the top of mind for Moxa? Hey, Mike, we're very cautious. We're taking this a little at a time. Here's what we're doing.
We've had a lot of internal conversations
Yeah.
about how to support AI, and we've had customers asking for the same footprint, the same basic features, but could you put a GPU in there?
Yeah.
And we've tried to find what would be the most efficient path to market. Right?
Sure.
Because the amount of environmental testing we have to do, the amount of thermals we have to do for it to be as reliable
Absolutely.
as it is,
Yeah.
that gets thrown out the window when you completely change the circuitry, the power requirements, the
Right.
CPU level, the heat that it's going to generate. So it's been slower. We've been slower to market on an edge device with, let's say, GPU capabilities than other
Right.
companies, and I think it's partly because of the way the value that the Moxa corporate entity places on sheer reliability, on the thermals, and also on the load on our existing resources, our existing dev team that is already 100% focused on the next iteration, the next version of Debian and things like that.
Right.
So we're trying to be careful and stay in our lane, but make incremental improvements. And two examples of that incremental improvement. Let's just say, like GPUs, period. I mean, AI can cover AI through the server and in the cloud.
Sure.
And we're just passing the data in and
Exactly.
letting Ignition and the MCP protocol handle that. And then you can still use our device to collect the data. So that's already, that's done. People are doing that today.
Right.
And they're pushing light machine algorithms back to the box. But from a GPU standpoint on the hardware, we are exploring, the ability to support an AI accelerator through an M.2 or mini PCIe
Right.
connector. I know that the chipset manufacturers we've been working with, there are new CPUs with an integrated NPU or TPU to boost the performance that's possible in a single
Right.
box. And we're looking at, the whole ecosystem of NVIDIA and the Jetson line, and how could Moxa, use our hardware knowledge and still
Right.
support the greater power needs. And also assessing what are our customers, our real customers and users asking. We don't just want to do a Me Too product hoping that people will choose Moxa.
Right.
It will really help if there's a use case, if there's an actual customer, an integrator here at ICC that says, you know what, Oliver, I really like that 5G device that you have. That's another one. We have a 4400 that supports 5G.
Right.
I really like the 5G device, but if only it had this TPU or this Jetson, I have a customer that is going to buy 200 pieces this year. That would really help our dev team know where to focus their resources.
Got you. I want to ask you the last question before we go, okay? For you personally, what do you hope to get out of this at ICC 2025? I mean, you can relate it to Moxa, that's fine.
Yeah.
But I think for you personally, you've been here a few times. You're obviously seeing a different experience here. What else do you hope to get out of the show, man?
Oh,
You
I
know?
mean, the past 2 days have been fantastic. So personally, one of my personal ambitions has been to expand the type of collaboration that Moxa is doing with the Ignition community, with Inductive as a company. This is the first year that it's been more than just the IoT and industrial PC guy from Moxa at the show. We have our VP of sales.
Right.
We have the global product manager for our ARM devices at ICC for the first time, attending the keynote and hearing the message of scalability, hearing the message of the next 5 years of how to integrate IT class software deployment, containerization, Ansible, Kubernetes. I saw him taking notes furiously, and knowing that Moxa as a company is more engaged with the community, talking to more of the providers in the the technology ecosystem.
Right.
A lot of these, a lot of the other exhibitors are using Moxa products, and we're using their software, and we're jointly trying to solve problems that integrators and customers are facing. And so expanding that outside of just my ARM-based, wireless box to the entirety of our energy business development team,
Wow.
Our IO Logic, IO to Ethernet team, the Modbus team, our networking security team.
Right.
When those teams are fully engaged with the full ecosystem, I think it's, that's what my personal ambition is, and I'm seeing it happening right now. I'm seeing
Awesome.
the next steps happen at this conference, leveling up our engagement.
Yeah,
with the community.
there it is, man. You said it. Level up. And with that, Oliver, thank you for coming on the show, man. That was good. I like the way you ended that on the level up cue. Once again, I am your co-host, Mike Lotus, with the Energy Tech Podcast with Mr. Oliver Wang from Moxa. You can catch him here at ICC. Catch their demo. It's definitely worth watching and taking a look. Thank you. Don't forget to like and subscribe.